Okay, so we'll start, Tina, by asking you to introduce yourself to our listeners.
I'm Tina Lifford, and my vocation, the way in which I have built my first career, is as an actress. I am Aunt Vi on a critically acclaimed show called Queen Sugar. And right in tandem with that career building, I have been building myself and now my passion career in inner fitness. And inner fitness is defined having the inner skills, the emotional, mental, and spiritual skill set that supports resilience and allows us to thrive no matter what circumstances we confront. And in that work, I am creating a new world where inner fitness is as understood, familiar, and actionable in our lives as physical fitness is. So that in the same way that we approach physical fitness for all of the benefits that it brings, inner fitness is equally important, and I might even say more so, because we all in career building, in relationship building, we have to manage the stuff that goes on inside of us. And so that's what we are here doing at the Inner Fitness Project, creating new paradigms and supporting our community in being able to build out their best self, go for the life they want, and grow.
You have, as an entrepreneur and founder, and also as a creative professional, as an actress, created tremendous success. And as a founder and as an actress, what you're really doing is manifesting something, making something real that didn't exist before. I'd like to think of sort of creating something out of nothing, which is, of course, what we as founders do. We have a vision or a wisp of a vision, and then we go and create something that is real and tangible in the world. I'm going to ask you about manifesting in a moment, but I wanted to start with this idea of creating things that don't exist, of building up and scaling a company. What do you see as the most important inner fitness skills that we need to cultivate in order to do that?
Yeah, fantastic question. Through the lens of inner fitness, I always start with tell yourself the truth. Because telling yourself the truth actually orientates you to reality. And when you are in reality, you can see what needs to be seen. And when you can see what needs to be seen, you're able to strategically go after what needs to change, what needs support, what needs to grow. So telling yourself the truth is just paramount to building a company and building out the human being that you are.
I'd love to pause there for one moment, because that's actually one of our core values as a company, tell the truth, which is so key. So if I can pause there for one moment, tell yourself the truth. When you think about your career, can you give us a practical example of when you didn't tell yourself the truth as a leader, and then you realized, okay, I need to go back and course correct, just so that we can see what this looks like?
Yeah, that very easily. So telling the truth means being connected to your gut, right? It means listening and knowing that you are in a creative relationship. If you are in a creative relationship, you must have access to your gut. And so when it has come to both my career as an actress and this work in inner fitness, I literally did not know how to do either one of them. But there was
That's such a
something in
relief. That's such a relief to hear.
well, you know,
It's because,
and
like, we don't always have to have the answers. That I had to interject.
no, I love that. I love that because 75%, I would even say 90%, right, is guessing. And we must tell ourselves the truth about that. There is something about, saying that you are creating a business and being a woman in this, journey where we think that the men know what to do, or someone else smarter than you knows what to do. And so part of the lying to ourselves that we start to do is think that we should have all the answers. If we were smart enough, we would have all the answers. And so there's a layer of pretense, or a layer of not being totally honest with where you are. You don't know whether or not this strategy is going to be the strategy that takes you where you want to go. But as long as your gut is urging you on, then to honor yourself means to honor your gut. And if your gut is the holder or the champion of a vision that is worthy enough to be made manifest in the world, then it is your obligation to become as clear and receptive to those urgings and that inner voice as you can. And then you do all of the strategic things. You learn the things that you need to learn about business so that you can be good at it. You learn, and bring on the people that you need to bring on. You do what you must do in the physical. But the most important thing is what's happening internally. And with acting and with the Inner Fitness Project, there were so many quote unquote failures. I mean, as an actress, every single time you go into an audition, if you look at it as pass or fail, you fail if you don't get that job. And I don't get the job, more than 80% of the time. So if I am using that as my metric, then I would have stopped a long time ago. But what I use is the thing that is using me. If my gut is plugged in, then I have the responsibility of being present to how it felt that I didn't get that job, or I didn't perform well in that moment, and then shake that off and recommit to the gut. If I had not done that, then the career that I have today would never have been lived. And the same thing with Inner Fitness. Much of, or all of the programs that I'm running at Inner Fitness, all of the success, the being listed on Forbes, the Forbes recommended reading list for 2021 with my book, The Little Book of Big Lies. I've got at least 8 major programs that I started trying to put legs to 12 years ago. If I had abandoned those things because I wasn't getting the kind of traction that I decided were the metrics for whether or not these ideas could live in the world, then I would not be positioned to be making the kind of impact that I'm making in people's lives right this moment. So once the success of Queen Sugar came in, it leveraged everything. The publishing company, HarperCollins, one of the oldest and best, they called me. The programs that I'm running, I now could go to my computer, and instead of spending a bunch of hours creating programs, I went to my computer and was able to, sequence the programs that I have and begin to strategically implement and roll out And all of that is because I've been listening to my gut and being resilient in the face of failure, and not and knowing that my human mind, which is driven by what I call the surviving self, which is worry, doubt, and fear. When the surviving self is our base being. It is, we operate, the brain thinks 12,000 to 50,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of those thoughts are negative. That's just what we're working with. So if you don't have a skill set that allows you to meet those realities, the reality of your brain that is going to focus on the negative, the reality that fear, worry, and doubt are always coursing, and the reality that creating something from nothing is magical territory. And your ability to stand in that in a level of balance is the true magic.
It's fascinating that when you said, tell yourself the truth, the part of me that heard it was the surviving self, because what I thought you meant was face the tough facts and deal with those. But as you shared your story, what I actually heard was tell yourself the truth about what's working through your gut, about what you're here to do, and stay anchored in that truth rather than the truth of here are all my myriad plans for how I'm going to do it. Because what I'm hearing you say is in anchoring into that truth, showing up for it, being resilient, you were able to unlock a level of success that you couldn't necessarily have planned for. It happened. Queen Sugar became incredibly successful. That created big awareness on the incredible work that you were doing in other aspects and opened up doors that you were ready for because you told yourself the truth for years about what you're really here to do.
Amen. Absolutely.
Wow. In an age of let's build a massive following yesterday, I love this message of telling yourself the truth and honoring your truth for as long as it takes.
For as long as it takes. And the reason you can stay in relationship with the truth over the long haul is if you decide right this moment that your greatest purpose is to grow yourself, and that the gift of an urging, an inner vision that wants to use you, it will grow as you grow. And so to just keep coming back to, okay, right this moment, there's friction. Right this moment, there's doubt. How do I grow me to make myself a larger container, a larger path, a wider pathway through which this incredible vision can emerge?
We talked about those inner fitness skills, and we're still just at the first one. Tell yourself the truth. And I love the nuance and the spirit with which you're talking about that, the truth about what you really want. What is another inner fitness skill that you deem to be essential for a woman who is growing a business?
Yeah, so it's funny. We've actually talked about a lot of what I lead with as foundational steps, but one that I can tease out of what we've already said is I lead with a clear definition of who I am. And my definition doesn't just belong to me. It belongs to every single human being. So I'm going to share with you how I articulate it. Instead of seeing myself as a human being, a surviving self at risk, confused and not knowing, I see myself with a posse behind me. And the acronym that we use at the Inner Fitness Project is I crew up, CREWW. That means that I constantly return to the definition of myself as innately creative, resilient, empowered to choose and make an empowering choice in any circumstance, whole and worthy, CREWW. So when I meet with that fear, that uncertainty, that I want to give up, I remember who I am. I am innately creative, resilient, empowered to choose and make an empowering choice in any circumstance, whole and worthy. So if my surviving mind, which, its tendency, its default is to limit me and self-attack, if that begins to happen, I interrupt that nonsense because I remember I am innately creative, resilient, empowered to choose, whole and worthy. It resets me in terms of attitude. It bolsters my sense of, again, one of our words, I-canability, and I'm ready again because I want to be that place where something new and amazing and beneficial and valuable makes its way into the world.
One of the things that I have observed in working with female founders, women like us who are growing companies, trying to make an impact, bringing our visions into the world, is that sometimes the labor of that or the process of going through that creates this residue of heaviness that hangs over the woman. And I've certainly carried this residue of heaviness. I need to have the answers. I need to figure out the how. I have to be committed to the how. And the reality is, anybody who has ever run a business understands the how. Please, child, that's your survivor self who needs the how, because just as you said, look, you couldn't have predicted what would happen and the pieces that would go in place that have helped to bring your vision to life all along the way. We can never really predict it. What I love about Crew, innately creative, resilient, empowered to make a choice, whole and worthy, is that to me, what that says is at any moment, that is your point of power. And when you tell yourself the truth about who you are and what you're here to do, and you operate, you crew up, you're always able in that moment to make the choices rather than being burdened with this weight of the plan. Like,
Absolutely.
I'm seeing the weight of the plan because it's sort of how we're supposed to do business. Which is one way of doing it. But so many women that I'm talking to, I mean, I think a big part of what we as women founders are doing is changing the face of business, what it looks like, how we do it. So this idea of crewing up is beautiful and so useful. Question for you. Can you share an example of a practical example of when you had to crew up?
Absolutely. But before I do that, I'd like to say that the weight comes from feeling like you are doing this. And if you are in the mindset that you are doing this, then you have closed the door, or you're not leaning into your innately creative nature, because your creative nature is working with something larger than you. This vision didn't come from you. This vision came from something that knows the enormous possibilities that exist, and that you are a place through which that possibility can enter into the world. If you think that you're in this alone, then you will have to carry the weight, and you will be weighted down, because you know that you don't have all of the answers. But when you are working in harmony with something, and you let the creative spirit be your partner, then the weight isn't weighty. Yes, it can be daunting. Yes, it can be overwhelming. Yes, it can knock you on your butt. But it always picks you up. You know, there's a moment or a conversation or a win or something that comes in, and it picks you up and says, it's okay, girl, we can keep going. And you can feel it and you know it, and you say, well, thank you. You know, some part of you is thankful for that thing that has come into your life in that moment. So, an example. I have been in difficult relationships in the course of both my acting, right, building that career, and in building out the business. And in difficult relationships where, you know, the power, so to speak, seemed to be outside of me. If I take that perspective, then I become a victim. I become overwhelmed. I become smaller and consigned to someone else's thoughts and agenda. When I crew up, I know that I'm always playing the inner game, and that my intention, the intention or vision that has chosen me, is right where I am. And if I am true to myself in those moments, if I give unto Caesar what is Caesar, and give unto the vision what is the vision, then that outside reality becomes less impactful. And the inner commitment and to follow and be a path of creation leads.
Where did this connection to it come from? What's your first memory of this connection?
Uh, if I tell the truth, my first memory goes all the way back to the second grade. I used to walk to school on the edge of the sidewalk, letting my friend, my invisible friend, walk with me. And my invisible friend was God. And it wasn't God like, you know, church was talking. This was my friend. And I would walk to school. I would sit in my desk, scrunched all the way over to the side, you know, and I would be in conversation. And then that waned, and probably round about 18 or 19, it started to reassert itself. And what that really looked like, more than anything, Eleanor, was that I just felt that there was more. and that I wanted to be more. And I got curious about that. Anyone who wants to move from where they are, anyone who wants to create a relationship with God, anyone who wants to feel that they are connected to an intelligence that is greater than themselves, that actually knows of their existence, and they can lean into it, start with curiosity, because curiosity will allow you to condition the state of openness inside of you. When you get curious, you actually move into what I call the thriving self. And on YouTube, I actually created a 5-minute film that speaks to the dream I had that gave me this, what I call 3 selves frame, that answers all of my questions. Like, when I didn't understand, how is it that I can be insecure in this area? I had debilitating stage fright, in the 5th grade. I want to be an actress. My hands shake when I get an audition. What the frick? How do I reconcile that, right? And I consider myself an authentic human being. So over here, I'm shaking with hands, and over here, I'm calm and focused. Those 2 realities did not make sense. And they made me question whether or not I was a fraud. But because I was just curious about, what is this? And I wasn't curious in a way that attacks myself. And that's a very important point when we start to use curiosity as a tool. And it is a tool. When you start to be curious from that place that says you are already connected to something that has chosen you for this journey, your curiosity is a way of communicating. Your curiosity opens doors. It allows your energy to be receptive as opposed to shut down. It allows you to lean in as opposed to protect yourself by closing and controlling and manipulating. And so I learned early to begin to use curiosity, the question of how or what, framed in a way that could create a door for communication. So with the acting career, I watched a movie. This is when I didn't even have the union card necessary to be an actress. I didn't know how to get that. I didn't know how to get from being an audience member up on that 70-foot silver screen. And I watched a film one day that just represented everything I wanted in my life, everything. And it tore me up. I literally fell to my knees in tears because I did not know how to get from where I was to where I wanted to be. And in that pain, the only thing that came to me to do was to go to my journal. And in my journal, what happened, I did not know to do this, but what happened is I started writing the question, how do I become a respected, sought after working actress? How do I become a respected, sought after working actress? I wrote that one question like I was writing, the next great novel. How do I become a successful, sought after working actress? That question created opening. And when I look back in my journal, my life changed in that moment. That's when I first got the inkling that curiosity is a tool, and it's a tool that connects us with the creative energy.
The concept of curiosity being a tool and a gateway is powerful. And you've really illuminated two ways in which that happens. One is that, again, the curiosity connects the tell yourself the truth about what you want with the answers that are outside yourself. That's the clear curiosity. It opens up that path for the information that you don't have to follow to you. And it's so interesting. Yesterday, I was doing an exercise with some clients, and we were talking through about some of the challenges that they're experiencing. And I was asking them to identify what the challenge was. And really it was a question. I was asking them to articulate the question: what is the biggest challenge that I'm experiencing? What might a solution look like? That was the question. And it was so interesting how they, and I can completely relate to this, were so quick to try to get the answer that you never open up the channel.
Yeah.
So that the surviving self, I'm to use your language, our desire for that immediate answer means that we only ever find the answer that we already have. But if we already had the answer, we'd be doing it already, you know?
Yeah.
So, right. So the curiosity, it opens up the channel for the answer to come. But you said something else about this idea of how can I have incredible stage fright and have my hands be shaking? And reconcile this with another part of who I am, which is incredibly calm and focused and determined and confident. And to me, that gets back to growing up in wholeness. And it was not until the last year that I really understood that concept and why it was so important to the growth of my business and everything that I want to do, that you bring it all with you. All the time. You bring it all with you. And so if you don't make room for these parts of who we are to come along, it's like they're dragging down the bus anyway. You know, like you have to make room and be curious. Oh, that's so, who's that? Who's that one? Who is, you know, that sort of insecure when you might feel triggered by something, or you feel insecure about something, or this old thing comes up again. Wait, who is this? Who's this version of me who's feeling this? Let's come here. Let's talk. Let me find out. I want to know about you. It's, guys, like, you know, it has been completely transforming for me, but it was not something that I understood. So I just want to make sure people understand how powerful that concept is.
I'm so glad that you shared that, because it brings me back to why I was initially sharing, you know, the stage fright. I had a dream because I was being curious about, what is that? Why do I have this breakdown? How do I move beyond it? All of that curiosity. I fall asleep one night and really have this amazing dream, wake up and have all the answers. And the dream, as I started to say earlier, I actually have captured as a 5-minute film on YouTube. And so you can go to YouTube and type in my name, Tina Lifford, dream, and then you will see the dream. But in the dream, I woke up realizing that, just as a frame, as a way of seeing ourselves, we have 3 selves inside. We have the surviving self, which is connected to the reptilian brain. We've got the thriving self, which is the cortex, the frontal cortex, where we can actually make sober, sound, centered, self-objective decisions. And we've got the infinite self, which is the holder of all creativity, the holder of all knowledge, the oldest and most unchanging part of ourselves. And we move in and out of these selves all day, every day. And so when we are leading with fear, it's the surviving self that is leading. And when we begin to see that, we can, the work of inner fitness is to build the kind of muscle, the kind of inner resilience and seeing that when you see yourself in survival mode, you can move into, consciously and intentionally move into thriving self characteristics and interrupt the hold, the grab, and the energy of the surviving self. And the infinite self is who we most are. It's the part of us that is so ancient. It existed before even the thought, of us. It is the dust that has been circling the planet intelligently for however long. And we have access to that. And so,
is that the it? Is the
yes,
infinite self the
absolutely,
it? Yeah, that's the girl, the little girl who was beside you on the sidewalk that nobody else could see.
Yes.
It's a friend.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And the image today I know is, instead of her just being next to me, she's living right inside. And she's poking me in the side, and she's patting me on the back, and we're moving. She's leading how we move forward. She's leading the discovery.
This is so fascinating. And I would like to know, I mean, I could talk to you all day about this, but the reality is I think people should check out, inner fitness and the work that you do to be able to get even more of what you're talking about and to go in depth. But the place that I'd like to sort of complete our conversation is this idea of accessing the infinite self. So we've talked about telling yourself the truth. We've talked about being clear, like a clear definition of who we are, and this idea of crewing up, of using curiosity to explore our human experience rather than to negate, rather than using fear to negate the human experience. Practically speaking, what do you do on a daily basis to stay connected to that infinite self and trust what she tells you?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And here's what I say whenever someone refers to me as special or brilliant or any of that stuff. I'm not attached to any of those adjectives. What I am is practiced. And what do I practice? I practice knowing that today, there is never a justifiable reason for me to think poorly of myself, nor speak harshly to myself. Not for any reason, under any circumstances. It is simply unacceptable. So if I'm in good relationship with myself, I am always going to have a better opportunity to access the thriving self. I lead with, I am practiced at understanding that anytime I'm in a point of friction, it is the infinite calling me to grow. So instead of being in resistance, I lean in. Instead of turning that into fear, I turn it into possibility. If this friction is here, if I'm triggered, if this is what's going on, there's a limitation inside of me. And I get to lean in and widen the path. And in the little book of Big Lies, I encourage people to confront their lives or meet every moment that you want to be done with, that you want to move beyond, meet it with this frame. Up until now, it has been however it's been. It has been however difficult it has been. It has been ever how, recurring it has been. Whatever, how tragic, traumatic, up until now, that's how it's been. But from this point forward, it can change for the better. Now I'm not stuck carrying this old idea of myself. I have just acknowledged the truth. That's what the thriving self and the infinite self would tell you. I've just acknowledged the truth. And in that truth, a door to a greater truth is open. And so now I get to, with purpose, my purpose is to grow. I get to use my business to do that. I get to use my life to do that. My purpose is to refine myself and redefine myself. Crew does that for me. And my key strategy is to tell myself the truth, because that will connect me to my gut, which will allow me to crew. It'll allow me to stay connected to my purpose, and it will allow me to always be aware that I am being used and that I am a worthy choice.
At this time of year, as we're having this conversation, when people are so obsessed with their plans and the details of their plans and the heaviness that can be around that, because sometimes when we put that pressure on ourselves, it can be all about us. As you talked about the danger, what you've shared is just such a message of practical, immense hope that opens up a gateway to tremendous possibility. So I thank you so much for telling yourself the truth and being so open to be able to receive this level of wisdom and to give everybody the gift of sharing it, that we can then go and use it. It's incredibly inspirational. I so thank you for that.
Eleanor, thank you. This has been a fantastic conversation, time well spent, and I'm happy we've done it.
So we've mentioned a few things. We've mentioned inner fitness. We've mentioned the little book of Big Lies. Where should people go to? We've given a taste, more than a taste. Like we've really shared some incredible wisdom here from your work. But where can people go to continue this journey and to really get immersed in your teachings?
Yeah, theinnerfitnessproject.com or tinalifford.com. Both will take you to more information. I really encourage you to start with the little book of Big Lies. It was written so that every single page would transform you. And the feedback literally has said those kinds of words. And I talk about the dream in the little book of Big Lies, but go to YouTube and just watch Tina Lifford dream. Those three things will lead you to more if you want more.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This has been lovely.